Was Kaspa's KRC20 actually a success? Hello and welcome back to Tommy Does Crypto. In today's video, I'm going to be updating you guys on all the latest Kaspa news and alpha, particularly regarding last Saturday's huge launch of the KRC20 onto Kaspa's mainnet. Before we dive into that, however, let's discuss the wider market. In particular, on Tuesday and Wednesday, the Federal Open Market Committee held a meeting which resulted in them dropping the interest rate significantly by 50 BPS down to 5%. This interest rate cut by the government is executed in the hopes of encouraging greater consumer spending and borrowing, which should theoretically boost economic growth, at least in the short term. I say short term because ultimately the fundamentally flawed Keynesian economics our government seem to love is the sole reason that our global debts continue to snowball and that one day it will all catch up to us. But before I go completely off topic talking about how flawed the government-backed fiat system is, let's take a quick look at the impacts of the interest rate cuts for the crypto market. These rate cuts incentivize more spending on risk assets, and therefore theoretically Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market should see some more liquidity flowing into it, into the latter half of Q4 and into 2025. This also lines up well with the global liquidity cycles I mentioned in the last video, in which the circulating liquidity is expected to rise, which should be another major driver of the stock and crypto markets into next year. Taking a look at the immediate market reaction, and since the decision, the stock market's S&P 500 hit a new all-time high on Thursday, and consequently liquidity also flowed into Bitcoin as we saw a pump of 5% on that day, sending it from 59k to 63k. As you can see, this pump is very significant since it means that Bitcoin has broken this very important resistance line in this explosive bullish move, which could signal that we are getting nearer and nearer to an attempt of breaking out of this huge bull flag, consequently towards scenario 1, which would mean that we are pushing for a new all-time high towards the end of 2025. By the way though, taking a look back to the last time interest rates were cut in 2019, and on a low timescale, Bitcoin didn't seem to move much in either direction for the weeks that followed. So don't think that this event will necessarily be a massive turning point, as it had been expected for a while now that the Fed needed to cut interest rates after fears of a global recession have begun to mount over the last couple months. So do not be surprised if we do see another small correction after this pump in the short term, before we do continue higher on to testing that 65 and 66k region. I have talked about it a lot recently though, that all this Fed news has minimal impact on the macro Bitcoin cycles, and based off history of the last 4 years, Bitcoin should begin its upward trajectory in Q4 this year or Q5 of 2025, and likely topping out in late Q3 or Q4 at the end of 2025. So as better time than ever, this is your time to be packing your bags ready for that explosive upcoming bull run. Before we get on to Kaspa, just quickly, I wanted to tell you guys about some recent news that Donald Trump, former US president and presidential campaign candidate for the upcoming November election, went to a New York City bar and restaurant that is famous for accepting Bitcoin and reportedly purchased hamburgers using Bitcoin. This makes him the first ever former president to use cryptocurrency in a real-world transaction, and it is bullish news as he attempts to conduct more support from the crypto community amidst the US election in November, emphasizing the fact that crypto is an important factor for the candidates to consider as we head towards greater global adoption. Right, now on to Kaspa, and after months and months of developing and testing, Kaspa's KRC20 ecosystem was launched onto the Kaspa mainnet last Sunday, and many Kas fans around the world began minting from a choice of 156 KRC20 tokens, consisting of meme coins right now and hopefully stable coins in the future. Taking a look at the top 10 tokens by holder count, and in first place with 15,000 holders is the iconic Nacho Wyborski meme coin, which was built around the real-life cat of one of the Kaspa core developers, Shai Wyborski. This specific meme coin is clearly trying to play off the hype in a similar way as Shiba Inu did, as Shib was the dog of the Ethereum founder Vitalik Buterin, and back then, in the 2021 bull run, Shib ended up doing a 11,480x, so really the sky is the limit for Nacho, and it has great potential to be a good leveraged play for Kaspa. Then in second place with around 7,000 holders is Kaspa the Ghost, then it's Fast, then it's Kaspa the Cats, then Caspot, Goad, Caspor, Castard, Kepe, and Silver. By the way, do feel free to let me know in the comments below if you've minted any of these. I'd be interested to hear which you think could pump the furthest in the bull run and stick around for the long haul. Ultimately though, remember, as with any meme coins, particularly in a brand new ecosystem, that the risk is very high, but also the reward is high too. But given that it is effectively a form of gambling, remember to only invest an amount of money that you are comfortable with and can afford to lose. As we heard last week, a number of these tokens teams are already in talks with centralized exchanges for their respective spot listings. So I will be the first to update you guys on that, so make sure you're subscribed. And without a doubt, something like that, a CEX listing for one of these Kaspa meme coins, could create significant demand from the majority of people who haven't been bothered to mint any KRC20 tokens yet, since now they'll be able to buy KRC20 tokens with ease on a user-friendly centralized exchange. Right, in order to assess whether the KRC20 launch was a success, we have to talk numbers, particularly the first 24 hours. And by the way, a big shout out goes to Microwedder on Twitter for collecting these statistics together. First up, transactions. In the space of 24 hours, the Kaspa network processed a total of 13 million transactions, which has set a new world record for the most transactions of any proof-of-work blockchain over a 24-hour period. The average transactions handled per second was a staggering 200. And there were 20 million fees in Kaspa, the equivalent of $3 million worth, giving Kaspa miners a huge payday, which is bullish into the future since it will encourage more miners to take up mining Kaspa, contributing more computational power to the network and ultimately making it more secure. To give you an idea of the huge scale of participants, there were over 80,000 unique addresses that interacted with the KRC20. Also, on that first day, the memory pool reached a maximum of 140,000 transactions in queue, suggesting the massive demand for transactions too. The fact that Kaspa was not only able to conduct such an immense amount of activity on the first day of its KRC20 launch, but to be able to handle it with such a level of ease is nothing short of a remarkable achievement. Kaspa is quite literally rewriting history, becoming by far the most scalable proof-of-work blockchain out there without compromising on security or decentralization at all. This really just epitomizes the fact that Kaspa is the trilemma solver, the Bitcoin 2.0, quite literally the best proof-of-work network to ever grace our computers. Kaspa is making history. So yes, to cut a long story short, the KRC20 is a huge success and marks a significant milestone in Kaspa's journey to the very top. However, unfortunately, it was not all sunshine and roses for the KRC20 mainnet launch, as with the high throughput that it conducted, one of the main third-party wallets used to mint the tokens, Kasware, crumbled under the pressure and saw a lot of customers losing funds. Now, I will stress that this has absolutely nothing to do with the Kaspa team or Kaspa network. As I mentioned previously, the Kaspa network continues to run without fault since the KRC20 launch. It is Kasware, however, who has had these issues. Kasware is a community-driven wallet, therefore it was built by some of the members of the Kaspa community, and clearly they had not spent enough time testing and stress testing their services, which consequently, following the launch of the KRC20, it incurred some major issues to the extent that the Kasware team had to reach out to the people to tell them to stop using it to mint KRC20 tokens until they had fixed the bugs. For those of you who are not the most experienced crypto holders, this, unfortunately, is part of the harsh reality and a real lesson that you cannot trust third-party services to hold significant amounts of your money. So be very careful when using such wallets, as they are simply not as secure as cold storages and could have faults with the tech like Kasware had here. Despite that, I'm sure that the Kasware team is working hard to fix these issues and eventually, hopefully, looking to return the funds to those who had lost money. Please do remember though, guys, that as with any hot wallets that haven't had a lot of time to iron out all of the bugs, you must be very cautious with your funds at all times. By the way though, you can still mint or buy KRC20 tokens using Kaspa bot, but I would advise you to stay away from Kasware for a while. Apart from some third-party issues which should quickly be resolved, hopefully, ultimately the KRC20 was a monumental milestone in Kaspa's journey and emphasizes the fact that Kaspa is writing history at the moment, and we are blessed to be a part of that journey at such an early stage, given that it still has a very far distance to go, particularly looking at this upcoming bull run. Without dragging out the video much longer than it needs to be, I'll quickly mention the fact that while we are still waiting for a big Tier 1 American exchange listing to come, we have, however, had news that a smaller American exchange, PionX, has chosen to spotlist Kaspa, allowing for another easy way for American citizens to buy CAS, which subsequently permits the basic grounds for huge pumping once Kaspa looks to push to its next all-time high within the next month or so. If you want some more information regarding up-and-coming exchange listings, including the potential for Kraken, Binance, and even Coinbase to list Kaspa, then go watch my last 2 videos on it. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, please do smash like, leave a comment, share with your fellow Kaspa friends, and make sure you're subscribed. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.